system and a process that we've developed over the years about how to make sure that you get your best ideas implemented. We often do these as a follow-up to a web conference or to a live event like the Broward County event that we did recently for the Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals. We passed out the action guides, and then we're going to walk you through how to take some of your best ideas from that conference and make sure they get implemented. Now, those of you who are joining us who haven't attended a session recently are going to be able to participate in today's program as well, because the concepts we're going to introduce you to are universal. They're intended to help you really identify what issues or challenges you may be having and how to make sure that you're overcoming those challenges strategically to make sure that you're making significant progress in your mortgage practice and in your business. Let's see, a quick question I want to address here. My work computer will not allow me to access your link. Is there any other way to get these documents from the website? Unfortunately, if you do have a firewall issue, the best way to get the resources that we're talking about right now is email our customer service team. You can email info@mxlcoach.com, and Christy can forward you the action guide and the income and volume goals worksheet for you to be able to utilize for today's program. Although I will tell you that the tools are simple enough that if you can't download the Access tool, the other option is if you do have an issue with a browser where you're actually trying to access through a corporate VPN or secured interface, if you open a browser outside of the VPN on the desktop or through another device like an iPad or even an iPhone, you can download the resources directly and then forward it to yourself, in many cases via email, that our team can work with you in that respect. Anyway, all right, so the purpose of today's program is really helping you guys take those concepts and ideas of the strategies that you want to implement, what you want to create, and what you want to make happen in your business, doing so purposefully and on purpose, gaining growth and traction in what you want to do. And again, this is part of a little bit of a different style as we evolve and as we adapt what we've been doing with the Maximum Performance webinar series. We're moving into a style of doing a lot more interactive programming. As you may notice, I'm using webcam for today's program, which is something I haven't done a lot of in the past. Part of that is, we like the environment and the interaction we see when we're dealing with more able to communicate with you more effectively. So certainly as we go through today's program, we want to make sure that you're able to access and participate in the program. Certainly use the Q&A section of the platform to give me feedback and ask questions as I go through today's program with you, and let me know what you're thinking about and how we can help better refine the system that we're going to introduce you to today. By the way, one other quick thank you to some participating sponsors in today's program. We are joined by Simple Nexus, CRE Credit Services, and MySmartBlog as gracious sponsors of today's program that have contributed to being able to provide you the action guide. And once again, if you don't already have it downloaded, I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and take just a couple of minutes and go ahead and grab that action guide as well as the income and volume goals exercise as we go through today's program. I think you'll get a lot more value out of today's program if you go ahead and take advantage of that. And again, the link that I've just posted for you that allows you to download the action guide and the income and volume goals resources is in the chat section of the webinar platform. So what does it really take to create implementation? How do we get results? How do we make sure that we get, we've all been to those conferences. We've all had those opportunities where we go hear a great speaker who has powerful ideas that we want to make sure we implement. But the practical reality is, well, how do we make sure that we do that? And I don't know if you've all had the same experience, but I remember years and years and years going to conference after conference, and I would come home with a suitcase full of notes, 4, 5, 6 legal pads just full of scribbled notes, and no real structure or organization of those notes, and in many cases I would just get back into the daily grind of my business. I'd throw those notes on a bookshelf, and then 6 months later I'd look at them and realize that I hadn't touched them, I hadn't done anything with them, and how frustrated I would be as a result of that. Well, a big part of that is because we find ourselves in a very reactive environment. So one of the things we started back in 2004 when we did the initial research and development work that became the foundation of the Maximum Acceleration System is we realized that there needed to be a better way. I mean, the traditional growth model, when it comes to developing an action plan, uses a strategic planning model similar to what you may have heard. Like, for example, in a lot of corporate environments, maybe you've been a part of a strategic planning event where you had an outside facilitator come in. And often those traditional growth models start with just a baseline assessment. In many cases, they do what's called a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then they develop an action plan of how to address or react to those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then they try and follow some pattern of execution. Well, one of the things we realized is there was one fatal flaw with that style of development process, and that was that it was highly reactive. We're looking at the circumstances of our immediate situation and just trying to think about how do we get just a little bit better. Well, the big challenge that we realized, and as we developed what we now call the power growth model, is that it failed to do one important function, which was to identify ultimately what are we trying to accomplish. I mean, you know, if we have a clear understanding of where we want to be, then we have an opportunity to work backwards to figure out. And so one of the things we challenge our clients to work on and think about is what does it take to create radical transformational growth? Well, a big part of that is thinking beyond the limitations of our current beliefs. I mean, what's the maximum amount of loans you could imagine yourself doing right now? Think about that for just a second. In fact, go ahead and post it in the Q&A if you want to, go, just so I can get some interaction with you guys and get a gauge on where you're all at this time of your career. I mean, what's the maximum amount of loans you can imagine doing a year from now? Now, if you're doing 5 or 6 loans a month right now, what would be huge growth for you over the next 12 months? Would it be, you know, 8 or 10 loans a month? Could you imagine if you're at 8 or 10 loans a month, what it would look like to do 20 or 30 loans a month? Okay, there's some good interaction. I'm getting some numbers coming through here. Anywhere from 10 to 12 loans a month would be a great goal. Well, here's the thing. I mean, one of the things we've realized over the years and the thousands of clients we've had the opportunity to work with and serve over the years, we've realized that what we do to create 40 to 50% gain in a mortgage business, we can work a little harder and a little smarter or a few longer hours, and we can see a 20 or 30% increase in productivity and revenue. I mean, you know, think about it. If you're doing 5 loans a month and you add 1 additional loan a month, so you're doing 6 loans a month, that's a 20% gain. And so what does it look like to go from, you know, 60 deals a year to 72 deals a year? And what would that mean as far as income? But what if you thought about creating radical growth? I mean, our concept and our understanding and belief, and we've proven it hundreds of times over, is nothing is impossible. It is simply a matter of strategy, resources, and the appropriate application of both. So as a result of changing our mindset and looking at from the perspective of, okay, well, it may not be possible, but if it was, what would it look like to do 15 or 20 deals a month, 12 months from now? Well, there'd have to be some radical shifts, but any one of you I know could do it, because then once you have that vision in mind, you then identify what are the obstacles or challenges that are in the way of you getting to those goals, applying an appropriate strategy to overcome the obstacles or challenges you're likely to face, and then making sure that plan gets executed over time, and that we repeat, refine, and accelerate our growth little by little as we grow. And we do this through our power growth model. I mean, here, by the way, here's one other thing to think about. If you don't believe me, I understand that maybe some of you may be thinking I'm, you know, totally full of junk right now, but the practical reality is, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, think about it from this perspective. Quicken Loans, for example. 5 years ago, nobody knew who they were. Today, they're one of the largest mortgage companies in the United States today. And as a practical result, I mean, they had massive resources, they had an effective strategy, and they executed on that strategy effectively, and that's why they've grown to the size that they've grown to in the short period of time that they have. So what does it create? What does it look like to create that kind of exponential growth in your business? Well, part of it is having a realistic understanding of what has to change as we grow through this model. So that's one of the reasons in the research and development work that we did in building maximum acceleration, we developed a construct called the Pyramid of a Complete Loan Officer. Practical reality is when you want to grow your business, there's one of 3 primary areas where all businesses achieve growth or find barriers or ceilings of capacity. that are struggles to overcome? Well, usually it's in one of the three primary areas of the middle of the pyramid here, selling and presentation, marketing, and operational systems. So bear with me just a second and think about this for just a minute. If you want to go to where you want to go from 5 loans a month to 10 loans a month, what's going to have to change about how your business operates and the kind of resources and support team that you have in place? I mean, one, you're going to have to work on increasing your capture and conversion ratio. That's where selling and presentation comes in. Are you converting 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5? Well, what if you start converting 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 80, 90% capture and conversion ratio? And some of that has to do with lead quality as well, because how many of the buyers you talk to are not ready to buy yet as a result of where that lead came from? So that gets into the second area of growth, which is marketing, which in our world is all about lead generation. How do I get in front of more people who I can help with a mortgage and find the right kind of people from the right sources that are a higher caliber or higher quality of lead, which also impacts my conversion ratio? The third layer of that is operational systems and team building, and we always talk about systems before staff because throwing bodies at the problem doesn't work. It just creates more chaos, confusion, and anxiety in many cases. If we've systemized, however, then it's easy to duplicate. And so as we think about what are the challenges or obstacles to the growth of your mortgage practice and what you need to achieve over the next 12 months or what you want to achieve over the next 12 months to accelerate your growth significantly, we want you to begin thinking about, okay, you have a system, and by the way, here's one of the myths or misunderstandings that originators commonly come into coaching with as we start working with new clients. Well, one of the biggest myths or misunderstandings is we have a tendency to believe that people buy us, and our realtors refer us because of what we do. Well, the reality is they don't buy us, they buy the reputation we have an experience, they buy the experience we have a reputation of creating. So if we can systemize our experience, we can therefore duplicate our experience, which opens up the door to massive radical growth. And if we follow a proven path, a proven system or structure that has been identified and quantified by those who've come before us, I mean, why should we go reinvent the wheel? So as we begin to execute and as we begin to look at ways to grow and accelerate our performance, one of the first things we've got to start with is what's the vision? In an ideal perfect world, if you could wave a magic wand and create your perfect example of business, what would that look like for you? What would you really be driven by? And it goes a layer beyond just the business goals, the functional elements of what do I want to accomplish on a numbers basis. It goes to what's going to drive you to accelerate to those levels. In many cases, these are things that are driven by very personal and in many cases very emotional experiences. For example, in my case, I got into business in 1996. I worked as a junior loan officer for about 8 months in the early days of my career in 1996 and 97. I was a junior loan officer for a team that was, there was a team of 5 of us total, and as a team we were doing about 45 loans a month consistently. The only challenge is my boss, the leader of that team, was highly focused on refinance business. And as a result, and he also had a habit of waiting until the very last minute to lock a loan, so 95% of our pipeline were streamlined refinance, FHA, and VA deals. And we hit one of those market spikes in 1997, mid-1997. Rates jumped about 1.5 points. We went from mid-6s to almost 8% in the blink of an eye, and 43 of our 66 loans disappeared in a flash. Well, that was a powerful lesson to me about the importance of building a more resilient and a more stable, focused, purchase-based business, because I didn't want to be subject to that volatility of the market. I didn't want the market to control my health or my lifestyle. Another key example of what drives and motivates us to success is along about 1998. In fact, December 31st of 1998 was a life-changing day for me. You see, I woke up New Year's Eve, December, of 1998, and stepped out of bed only to collapse to the floor, basically unable to move anything down the left side of my body. As a result of that, my wife dragged me to the hospital, and a couple hours later, I'm sitting on the bed of a MRI exam table with nothing but time to reflect. And by that point, it was all but confirmed. The MRI was only a formality of confirming a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And of course, that really prompted me to, and it started then with just sort of an angry conversation with God at first about, okay, I think I'm finally ready to listen here, God. You've kept me alive through a plane crash, 2 major car wrecks, and now this MS thing. What do you want me to do with my life? Well, that evolved into me realizing that I had a real passion for making a difference in the lives of other people and becoming an educator, becoming a catalyst for transforming lives. And I realized that for multiple generations in my family, my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather, and on my mom's side as well, I come from a family of educators. And it really began to bother me as an originator when I would see borrowers doing stupid things that were hurting them in other areas of their life. Like, for example, I remember one young couple coming in for a loan application, and they were going to be buying a new home as a first-time home buyer. They had saved up quite a bit of money for their down payment because they were disciplined in their spending habits, with one minor problem. They built a lot of equity, they built a lot of savings, and they wanted to put a lot of money down, a lot more than they needed to. But they were completely ignoring about $9,000 in consumer debt. And it was one of those, it's like, I realized that if I helped people take a step back and not so much focus on the emotional or the conventional wisdom of how to go about structuring a mortgage strategy, that if we got them to think about the bigger, longer-term picture for what was right for their family over the next 15 to 20 years, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the mortgage is one of the most powerful financial decisions a family makes, right? Well, the reason is, for most families, it controls the biggest chunk of their budget every month and what will likely become their biggest asset for most families, which is their real estate. So you see, that evolved into why I eventually left retail origination and got into training and development full-time, because my passion became about making a difference and really, what I could do to educate people on what they don't know that could hurt them. And that became a drive to do all of the things that I've done in my career, including one of which was, at one point reaching to the level of where my last 12 months in retail origination, I did 237 purchase transactions in 12 months. And what it took to build the kind of structure that allowed me to do that in a little less than 4 years when I left retail in August of 2002. And most of my purchase business was, good old-fashioned, hardcore, manual underwrite FHA and VA loans, full doc. And it was these were in the days prior to automated underwriting and some of the unique efficiency tools that we have today. So here's what I want you to think about. As we walk into this exercise, and again, this is on page 17 of your action guides. If you go ahead and print these out, you'll be able to scroll down in the PDF. And there's an exercise worksheet called the purpose worksheet, or what's your vision. What I want you to do for just a minute is I want you to take a few seconds and really reflect on what do you want to create in your life a year from now. Again, what's your ultimate vision of success, and what kind of lifestyle would you like? So think about things like your volume. That's part of the factor. I mean, keep in mind, we don't just make money for the sake of making money. We make money for the lifestyle it creates for us and what kind of importance is in there. So what are the things that are really important to you about what you want your business and life to look like? I mean, do you want to be stressed out and living paycheck to paycheck in your business? Or do you want to go ahead and be in a position to where you've got some discretionary income, some freedom to be able to maybe get rid of some consumer debt or save a little bit extra for your kids' college or retirement, or to be able to start to get back to being able to take a real vacation instead of working from an alternate location? I don't know, if, as an originator, when was the last time you actually took some time where you could completely unplug? And what kind of team or support staff or resources have to be in place for you to be able to disappear for a couple of days and completely ignore your business without a fear of losing deals? What would it take in a shifting or restructuring of your team and your structure to make that happen? What tools, resources, or support programs are available through companies like Simple Nexus and My Smart Blog, which are awesome tools for being able to really streamline how you create value for business partners and engage them in a way that really tightens up your lead follow-up system, for example. And we'll talk a little bit more about these. But right now, what I really want you to get a glimpse of is, what does that perfect vision of life look like for you? Now, part of the reason, if you're struggling to kind of get down to a sense of awareness about this, one of the best filtering questions or drill down questions you can ask to peel back the layers and go deeper into this concept or idea is you think about a particular, let's say your contribution to your community. Well, I really want to be able to do some fiscal literacy education for a local community group that I care about, or at my church or something like that. Okay, so what about that is important to me? Well, because I have a passion for making a difference in the lives of the people I have the opportunity to serve, that's one way I can make a difference on a much bigger scale, and especially in a way that may not necessarily create an immediate income stream for me. But I want to be able to be that catalyst that that's going to help families get on a stricter budget and be able to start beginning to save for a future, increasing their net worth. I mean, it's not about how much you make; it's how much you keep, right? There's a great saying from a financial planner I recently read or heard from at a speaking conference I was at, and he said, the practical reality is rich people measure wealth or success by income. Wealthy people measure success by net worth. So what can I do to be a catalyst? What's important to me? Well, for me, it's just the personal gratification of having made a difference in the life of a family who has just been living paycheck to paycheck and not been strategic about how they're trying to grow their financial situation or improve their personal situation. So what about 12 deals a month or 10 deals a month is important to you? What would that do for you personally? And as you begin to go layers deeper into this thought process, you begin to connect with things that energize you, that get really exciting, that inspire you and encourage you and give you that warm, fuzzy feeling, if you will. And it's when you connect with those sort of deep emotional core value type situations that you get the fuel to, when you're having a rough day or when an underwriter's being a nitwit over a silly condition, or a client is leaving you because they've met a competitor who's offering them a couple $100 cheaper in closing costs. It gives you that fuel to get back up and continue down the path of growth, as opposed to, oh, why bother? I quit. These goofball loan customers who are so disloyal and dishonest, I'm flush it. I quit. I'm going somewhere else, doing something else. When you can reignite and refuel that passion, that becomes not only a drive for results in your growth and in how you want to accomplish your business, but also becomes a reinforcement of why you're doing the things that you're doing. From there, though, you want to start to begin to think about what is the most important change you want to tackle first. By the way, as I go through this program, you begin to realize there's a cyclical nature. This power growth process, it starts with the bigger picture, more global 3 to 5 year goals, and it drills down to projects for the next 12 months, and it drills down to specific task by task primary goals as we drill down. So what's the next most important thing you want to accomplish? What's your most important goal for this next year? Like, for example, I was on a coaching call with a client late yesterday afternoon, and one of his greatest goals is he's trying to really help build a team of originators. He's a branch manager, owner type individual, and he has a number of originators who he's recruited. Some are returning to the business after years out. Some of them are brand new to the industry. Some of them are seasoned mortgage professionals who've only ever done at best 2 or 3 deals a month, and he's really trying to figure out, so his most important goal is creating a program that nurtures that team and gives them the fundamental skills they need to be able to consistently do. So his goal for the next 12 months is create a team of 5 originators doing at least 5 loans a month consistently. And that's what his primary goal for the next 3 to 6 months is how to get that team in place and get it structured. So that becomes a driving force. Now, there's other goals that he wants to accomplish, but that's the most important one he wants to focus on right now and over the next 6 months. So we're going to drill down a little bit deeper on that as we go through the next steps of this process. But eventually, it does come down to what does personal production look like. And you know, we all know that sales is a numbers game, right? At some point, however many leads we put in the top of the funnel filters its way down to however actual deals close and how many loans, how many paychecks we get, if you will. So at the end of the day, we have to drive a business forward based on certain production goals and targets. If we want to generate a consistent income for ourselves so we can maintain a lifestyle and a stream of revenue to support the growth of our practice, then we need to know. But here's the challenge. If I tell you to go out and close 10 loans in March, you know, here it is last 4 or 5 business days of February, it's a little too little, little too late to make a huge difference. I mean, maybe you could get on the phones this afternoon or tomorrow and you could bang out a couple extra loans that you could stick in for March closings. But by the time March 2nd or 3rd comes around, it's too late to really do much about what March closing volume is going to look like. And at the end of the day, I can't necessarily control how many apps are going to close. What I can control is how many leads I put in the top of the funnel, how many people I reach out to, and what kind of drill down that looks like. So one of the other tools that we've introduced our clients to is a simple tool like this income and volume goals exercise. Now, I'm not going to go tremendously deep into this. You guys can do this, but it's fairly self-explanatory. But when you download the spreadsheet, there's 2 important tabs you want to pay attention to. The first tab is monthly income minimum standards. From this point forward, how much do you want to be making every single month as sort of a minimum standard, right? What's the minimum acceptable income? So, you know, depending on where you're at in your business or what that looks like for you, let's say, you know, a little over $12,000 a month is your minimum target income. Let's say $150,000 is what you want to be making sure you're making. So, you know, at $12,000 a month or $13,000 a month, that works out to about $150,000 a year. And let's say my average loan amount is $350,000, and I'm on a comp plan where I make 80 basis points at the right volume tier. Well, what that means is I need to be consistently closing 4 deals a month. Now, this column number 8 is conversion ratio, and I would say err on the side of caution. Also keep in mind this is based on how many people I talk to every week who have some opportunity to potentially benefit from with somebody else. I don't win the deal. They go with the competitor over rate or price or whatever. The second fallout is they don't qualify. They've got credit, income, or asset barriers to being able to move forward at this time. Now, that might mean they're a lead for 6 to 12 months down the road with a little help, support, guidance. But, you know, when I'm looking at, you know, somebody I talked to today who has a reasonable possibility of buying, selling, or refinancing in the next 60 to 90 days, that's the number that I'm talking about here. So it's not about whether I capture them when I talk to them at application. It's about the full pull-through. So that means I need to focus on generating 4 leads a week to make $12,000 a month consistently. That's the monthly minimum standard. The next tab I want you to focus on is what is the stretch goal? What does that really look like for you? So the challenge goal is think about where would an ideal perfect world I like to be a year from now? You know, if it's February of 2016, what do I want my income to look like with 12 months of growth and concerted effort? And one of the things I want to challenge you to do is dream big, high in the sky, radical growth, double, triple, quadruple your business over the next 12 months. What would that look like from an income perspective? And again, feel free to post in the chat what you're interested in accomplishing and what you want to see happen for yourselves as you're going through these exercises. Because, I mean, let's take, for example, though, and just so you know, by the way, the second tab in the spreadsheet along the bottom is the monthly focus tab, or what we call the stretch goal. So let's say 12 months from now, I want to be making consistently $40,000 a month in income. So I'm more than doubling. I'm almost quadrupling my income target from the previous worksheet. But here's what I want you to realize. So if I'm at 40,000 a month is my target, maybe I raise my income, my average loan amount just a little bit by focusing on maybe targeting a higher caliber of referral sources. And as a result of an increase in production and volume of closing, I'm able to qualify for a slightly higher profit tier with my company. So now I can get 105 basis points instead of 80 basis points like the previous worksheet. And maybe you're at a company where they pay a smaller commission on, in-house leads or refinance deals versus, self-generated leads. So I want a bigger percentage of my business to be self-generated. Well, if I pull all the way down and maybe I work on my sales skills and my marketing strategies to generate higher caliber of leads, well, if I do all that, to make 40,000 a month, I got to close 11 deals a month at a 40% conversion ratio. At 11 deals a month, that means I need to be generating 27 leads a month or 7 leads a week. Now, worst case, if I had to literally cold call renters out of the phone book, of course, cross-sell against do not call list, how many renters would I have to talk to every week to find 7 families who were interested in moving out of rental and into a buying situation, especially when you look at housing affordability where it is right now? Now, I'm not saying that's the easiest, fanciest, sexiest way to do it, but at a minimum, I could do that, right? A couple hours a day of calling, prospecting, getting on the phone and giving myself a challenge. Like, for example, at the Florida event last week, Frank Gray and Brian Stevens were down there, the guys from the National Real Estate Post. And I had an opportunity to sit with Brian and talk, and he shared a concept and idea with the audience that was really profound. He said, measure your no's and don't quit until you hit the volume of no's. If you know your pull-through ratio is 1 out of 10, well, focus on the 9 no's, because likely it is you're going to have hit the 1 yes by that point. So if I spent a couple hours, a couple of days a week making concerted calling effort, but let me ask you something. We're looking at an increase here of what? 3 leads a week from the previous, the monthly goals exercise was 4 leads a week. That's where I wanted to be focused minimum. So if I can just figure out over the next 12 months how to increase my lead flow by 3 to 5 leads a week. So if I can add over the next 12 months 3 to 5 business partners that I could count on consistently for 1 good lead a week, how much more streamlined and how much more annuitized would my business and income be by developing those 5 key partners? Now, how many do I have to approach to establish 1 key partner? Well, by the way, what if I shared some of these concepts or ideas about strategic growth with potential business partners like realtors, for example? And by the way, you may have noticed in many of what, if you've ever done our webinar series before, you might have realized that I do things a little differently than most coaches and trainers and speakers. In fact, I stopped calling realtors referral partners about 3 years ago, partly because I wanted to shift from being on the taking side of that relationship to being on the giving side of that relationship. And that's why I call them strategic partners or business development partners now. And so what if over the course of the next 12 months I sit down with 30 or 40 or 50 potential business partners and we talk to them about what their income and goals are, what's important to them about success, and what would drive them to a higher level of production. And we talk to them about how we can help them streamline their approach to marketing, sales, and operational systems and capacity, and being a running buddy to them and helping support them in increasing their lead flow and lead volume. And we get them to do an income and volume goals exercise of their own that gets them to realize, well, if they can just generate 2.5 leads a week, they'll be on pace to earn the kind of income that they want to be earning consistently. Well, now I've got that partnership in place to where those 3 or 4 or 5 leads a month are coming in somewhat organically. Now I've built a team outside of my personal production growth, and I'm able to take that to a completely different level of growth. By the way, some of you are chiming in that you're having some trouble with the audio. I'm trying to adjust my microphone just a little bit here to make sure. Let me know if that's a little bit better for you. That's one of the other reasons I'm using the audio phone system. If it doesn't get any
unfortunately, in the back-end systems with this GoToWebinar system, there's really not much you can do about it if it's coming in a little muted or muffled. Like I said, I'll try and adjust my microphone a little bit to try and get a little better quality of audio here. Again, one other opportunity, by the way, is if you go ahead and listen through the telephone option. I know, Dan, you're actually logged in that way, but if you're actually listening through the phone as opposed to the computer mic and speakers, that'll usually clear up a lot of those potential issues. Anyway, so as we start to look at what does it take to overcome the challenges, obstacles, and difficulties in trying to achieve those bigger picture goals, well, one of the obstacles is, okay, let's think about that part in development as a goal. Let's say, that one of your primary goals for the next 6 months. Okay, guys, let me pause here for just a second. Let me see if I can hang up and dial back in and see if that clears up the audio problem. Okay, just hang tight for 5 minutes.
Okay, guys, I'm back on. I don't know, is the audio better at this point? Can you guys hear me all right? All right. Hopefully that works. And unfortunately, guys, there's not a whole lot we can do about that because it's a server issue on the back side of this GoToWebinar system. So I appreciate you being a little patient with me while I hung up and tried to log back in. Anyway, so the next step in this conversation and what we're trying to create as a catalyst is what do we really need to do to help you achieve those primary goals? So I'm going to walk you through an example. Let's say our primary goal is to build 5 strategic partnerships that we could count on for 1 good lead a week, or 10 strategic partnerships that we could count on for 2 leads a month, so that we're generating consistently an extra 20 to 25 leads a month. Okay, what would that look like as far as net pull-through ratio for all of you? That would push, the majority of you would be up to around probably 10 to 11 closings a month consistently if you were generating around 20 to 25 leads a month every single month consistently. So let's focus on that. So what are the obstacles or challenges? Now this is where we start to get into some of the strategic assessment functions. I'm not saying a SWOT analysis is a bad exercise. What I am saying is it's not the best place to start first. If we begin with the end in mind and we create a clear picture of what we want our business to look like 12 months from now, then it's a lot easier to back up and identify, reverse engineer, if you will, how to achieve those primary goals. So, in many cases, we all know the challenges of today's environment, right? We all know that there's kind of this perfect storm type situation where realtors are being heavily commoditized. Most buyers are shopping radically different than they did 5 to 10 years ago. In many markets, inventory is extremely tight. And all of those different things are combining to create challenges and difficulties in getting from where we are to where we want to be. It seems like there's no loyalty with business partners like realtors, for example. I mean, in fact, maybe many of you have had the experience of going out and talking to agents, and their response is, "I wish I could refer you more." Well, part of the reason for that is 15, 20 years ago when I got started in the industry, realtors controlled about 80% of the lead flow where a borrower went to get a loan. Right? Today, they probably control less than 20%, and it's only when a buyer asks them, who should I go to for a loan, do they refer, because 8 out of 10 buyers are getting their loan done in many cases before they even talk to a realtor. And realtors are very antsy about trying to maybe lose a deal or the fear of losing a deal by peeling a client away from another lender. Regardless of whether it's to their benefit or not. So, like for example, one of the program I did at at the Florida show last week was talking about that specific issue about partner power-up. How do we create strategic alliances with realtors where they know, appreciate, and understand the value that we seek to provide them, and how we can be an asset and resource that's going to help them do substantially more business. So when you look at kind of what our what some of our top coaching clients are doing and what overcoming challenges, their obstacles and difficulties are, they're all experiencing the same kind of things you all are when you try and attract a realtor or a business development partner. Like, for example, this gentleman in the middle, Randall Brower, one of his bigger struggles the last several years has been just trying to get agents to spend time with him. Randall and his team have a great reputation of providing a very good level of service on a transactional level. They have a really good, strong reputation of closing deals on time, and that kind of thing. But one of his challenges is the difficulty of getting agents to actually sit down with them, because most of the time they'll call them up and ask for a lunch appointment with them, and their response typically is, no, we're good. Randall, we love you. You do a great job for us. You communicate extremely well throughout the transaction, and you close deals on time for the most part. But we're good. You do a great job. I wish we could refer you more, but no, I don't think that we need to spend any time together because, well, here's the issue. The realtors they're assuming that he's just talking to them about that transactional level of service. But how do we change that mindset? How do we get them to think beyond the value of us being a vendor on one deal? Well, one of the strategies that we've been working on that's been working effectively for him is to go, and I'll go into the solution for that in just a minute, but if, like, for example, think about what are the challenges or obstacles. So what I want you to do is think about, in the context of that biggest goal you wrote down 10 minutes ago, what are the obstacles, what are the biggest challenges that you're likely to face? Again, go back to that idea of building 5 strategic partnerships worth at least 1 deal a week, or lead a week over the next 12 months. Well, who do we target? How do we approach them? How do we create enough differentiation to get their attention? How do we get them to sit down with us for a one-on-one style interview appointment? How do we help them realize that we want to be just more than just a vendor, and that we want to be an asset and resource that's going to help them do substantially more business? What are the other challenges? How to manage the capacity so I have more time. Many of our coaching clients come to us and they're already overwhelmed and overloaded because they feel like they're falling behind and losing deals or leads because they can't get to the pre-quals fast enough as it is. So they start to think about, geez, if I really wanted to double or triple my lead flow to where I'm receiving 20, 25, 30 leads a month, I'm going to be buried, and there isn't enough hours in the day. Well, how do I create the efficiency and capacity to be able to do that kind of volume? And I'll tell you guys, there are plenty of originators out there that are doing 20, 30, 40 plus purchase deals a month. At the bottom of the top 10 list last year as far as purchase production, I think did around 600 something purchase deals last year. Well, that's around 40 deals a month. And obviously you have to look at building a very different team to handle that kind of volume than you do if you're just trying to do 5 or 6 leads a month. But that's what I'm trying to get you to realize here. What has to be changed or evolved, and what got you from 3 loans a month a year ago to 5 or 6 loans a month now won't get you from 5 loans a month to 50 loans a month. But what are those biggest obstacles or challenges? Now, the other thing that comes along with this is you'll begin to realize that you'll start to find yourself repeating the same thing phrased in a different way. And as a result of that, you'll begin to recognize that 1 or 2 of those obstacles begin to rise to the surface and become the biggest obstacle. If you eliminated that one, it would give you the greatest lift in production or productivity. So, like, for example, one of the bigger challenges with that realtor approach strategy is the subtle shift. We could be doing everything right per the scripts and per the tips, tricks, and ideas, and we could be presenting like another really valuable tool. I mentioned Simple Nexus, for example, a few minutes ago. Well, part of the reason I really love Simple Nexus is it's not just a digital business card and an electronic mortgage calculator that you could put on a client's phone. it's a truly integrated mobile marketing solution that allows you to partner with realtors and actually provide for them a mobile marketing app. Like, for example, you could get agents using a simple, open house flyer that you give them that has a QR code in the center of the flyer that they could set in an open house, that when buyers walk through, they can, scan it, that QR code with their mobile phone, and now all of a sudden they've downloaded you and your agent partner's mobile marketing app, which then triggers a drip warm-up process that Simple Nexus has built to support you as a frontline originator, that allows you to incubate and warm up a lead by giving them valuable information and content that's pertinent to what they are thinking about, worried about, and afraid of as they're beginning those initial phases of thinking about buying a home. And so think about how powerful of a tool that would be. But again, the obstacle could be the agent you're approaching. Either one is already extremely loyal to somebody else on a transactional level. Two, they are, they don't know what they don't know, and so it's partly our job to introduce them to something. Or three, they're overwhelmed and they can't imagine taking on anything new because they're scrambling, because they're highly reactive, and they're only doing 10 deals a year, but they're working 60 hours a week and running around like a chicken with their head cut off all the time because they're very disorganized, for example. If their biggest obstacle or challenge is disorganization and hyper-reactivity, in other words, poor time allocation and utilization, then talking to them about Simple Nexus is going to fly right over their head, because they don't think they have the opportunity or the time to implement something like that. They don't recognize, appreciate, or understand the value that it would create for them. So part of our job is beginning to get in and identifying what are their biggest challenges to growth. So whatever those obstacles are, what are the biggest challenges in your growth? Simple it down to one of those biggest obstacles. Well, one of the things that Randall and I figured out about 4 months ago, and he's making significant progress in this area, one of the challenges that he realized is that he had a tendency to self-sabotage, because just when we would start to reach a ceiling of resistance and we would start to have some really good months, he would shut off his approach and marketing strategies. He would disappear from the market for 40 or 50 days, and that would dry up his partnerships to the level that he hadn't created the level of depth and engagement and commitment from those business partners because he hadn't taken it to that next level of depth yet. Part of that was personality style issues and concerns, but the other part of it was really, recognizing and understanding how and why he's of significant more value to those partners than the rest of the flock, right? And really getting the agents to understand, recognize, and appreciate. So his solution to that challenge was more practice. In all reality. So we introduced him to a concept of, okay, how do we separate and differentiate? How do we add more value to those business partners? Well, part of it came down to a conversational strategy about how we can become a strategic asset that's going to allow them to substantially grow their business. So we talk about 4 key concepts to optimize lead flow for agents. We talked about value of time conversation, how to make sure that agents don't waste time on deals that aren't 1,000% ready to make competitive offers, particularly when you find yourself in a market where buyers are competing against dozens of other buyers for any one individual property. We can't afford to spend time showing property to a buyer who's not really ready to make competitive offers. Second step of that conversation is we start to begin to articulate what we can do to incubate leads for the future. Those buyers who could get ready in 6 to 12 months, maybe they need a little more seasoning on their income or a little more down payment and a couple of months to come up with the extra down payment. They've got a couple of minor credit issues that need to be resolved for either reducing ratios or just overcoming some derogatories that are going to be a barrier to their ability to qualify, whatever. So we can, it's kind of the give us the eggs, we'll put them in the warmer, and when they hatch, we'll bring them back to you when they're ready to buy, kind of thing. Third thing we talked about is how we can be a strong third-party endorsement for the agent, regardless of whether they, we have the opportunity to do the loan or not. We can give a strong endorsement of the agent, which increases their likelihood of capturing and converting a buyer if they'll introduce us to every buyer. And then, of course, the third key concept in that solution that we talked about is how we can replace every deal we've got with one or two additional deals. I mean, think about it from this perspective, and many of you have heard me introduce this, and I shared this at the Broward County event down in Florida, is if you think about it, how do you ask for referrals? Well, many of us are hesitant to ask for referrals because either it feels self-serving or selfish, and two, often we ask in the wrong way. So think about this for just a second. Well, let me ask you all a question. Feel free to chat in your response to this, but do you know the name of your best friend? Go ahead and type in your response, guys, while you're watching that. Do you know the name of your best friend? Okay. Well, I apologize to the one gentleman who said no. I'm hoping that's because you've got too many friends to identify who's your best friend, right? Sorry about that. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. Think about it from this perspective. If I wanted to know the name of your best friend, did I ask the right question? The obvious answer is no. And part of the reason for that is because we as human beings are pre-programmed to respond to very specific stimulus in very specific ways. Our brains operate much like a computer. They respond exactly to what was input. So if I wanted to know the name of your best friend, I needed to ask, who is your best friend, or what is your best friend's name? So there's two elements to how we ask for service opportunities. Again, I want to move from the taking side of the relationship to the giving side of the relationship, but I'm looking for opportunities of service. So when I sit down with a borrower and I've done their upfront pre-approval consultation and they're all fired up and excited about the ability to go qualify for a home, and they're ready to go charge ahead with getting in touch with an agent, working with that agent to go out and find the perfect house, if at the end of that consultation I say something to the effect of, well, you know, Mr. Borrower, as you can probably tell, I'm pretty passionate about sharing some of the home opportunities that exist in the current market and making a difference in the lives of the people in our community. At the end of the day, there's a lot could be buying a much nicer home for less monthly payment than what they're spending in rent currently, and they'd be building wealth for the future. And a whole host of other examples like that. So what we'd really like to do is enlist your help in this mission of spreading the word. We call it our Home Opportunity Initiative, or it's kind of a community service project, if you will, about trying to just get the word out there to as many people as possible before this amazing, incredible, unprecedented housing affordability disappears and those folks miss out. So let me ask you something. Who do you know, for example, that has a stable job, works hard, pays their bills on time, but is still renting the same place they've been the last couple of years? Now, guys, there's a couple of key elements to that, and there's some technical training in why we do that I don't have time to go into right now, but the practical reality is we're asking specific scenario-based questions that allow that borrower to think about who else they know in their sphere of influence that is in a position to benefit from a change or improvement to their housing situation. And we're going to give them a couple other examples along the way that are phrased in those who questions. But like, for example, instead of just saying, who do you know that's a renter, I'm going to go a layer deeper, and I'm going to start getting them to think about who would also be a good candidate. So it becomes a filtering tool as well. Well, I have that conversation with every buyer from this day forward. I'm now generating on average 5 to 7 introductions or potential names for people who might be in a home that's no longer meeting the needs. And as a result of that, I can now go back to the agent and say, look, we have an active opportunity mining system in place that when we're meeting with a borrower and talking to them about their goals and desires for the future of home ownership, that we can reach in a little further into their circle of influence, the 5 to 7 people they know that are likely already thinking about making a change for their housing. And that goes back to some statistics I've shared hundreds of times on this webinar series before. But but we know 1/5 to 1/7 of the population is already thinking about moving because life's changed enough. The home they're in is a bad fit. And as a result of that, we know that the average American talks to or is on a close personal basis with about 30 to 35 people. So that means there's 5 to 7 individuals every person knows who might be in a position to benefit from a change in housing structure. And when we feed that into a sequence of what we're looking for and what we're educating our customers to be aware of and paying attention to, then that creates an opportunity for us to create a huge web of opportunity of all the people that are also connected to families, folks, and individuals when they're at a stage or place in life where it makes sense for them to improvement in their housing situation. So as we start to think about how this works forward for you guys, the next step is what are those specific solutions to those biggest challenges. So as you start to work through these action guide materials and as you're drilling down into creating a tactical action plan for the next 12 months, which, by the way, guys, I don't know if you are aware of this. I just realized we're about to approach the 60-minute mark in today's call, and I believe there was a mistake in the advertising. This was originally intended to be a 90-minute webinar today, and I'm not 100% sure it was advertised accurately. I'll have to check with the marketing department, but I just got a blip alert over on the other screen here that if you do have to jump off, this program will be recorded and you will be able to access the recording in a couple of days. We'll be sending out an email to all the registrants for today's program to get access here. But we're about 2/3 of the way done with today's program in walking you through step by step. So if you do have to jump off here, my apologies again for the miscommunication in the scheduling, but if you can hang with us another 30 minutes, I think it'd be highly worth it. If you can't hang with us for the next 30 minutes, please make sure that when the recording email comes out, you take an additional 30 minutes later this week to finish this part of the process. Because I really do want to make sure that you get the tools and resources that are going to help you radically improve your business. All right, thanks, Eric, for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting you in the near future again soon. Guys, you know, as I move forward with this conversation, one thing that we want to start to drill down on now, the next step in this process is, okay, we talked about the goals, we talked about the obstacles, now we need to talk about the solutions and opportunities. Again, the other element of just like, you know, Brian Stevens shared at the Florida conference, you know, the best way to overcome the challenges, for example, of too many realtors. Remember, guys, we're not going, you know, marlin fishing. We're not looking for the 300-pound prize catch. We are looking for a web of opportunities, a net of who is the ideal partner. I don't care how, I don't care who, I care how many. So I don't care if I have to filter through 40, 50, 80, 100 agents to find 5 good key partners, that's my focus. I need to create a system, strategy, and approach that gets me from where I am to where I want to be. So recognizing that I'm probably looking for 1 or 2 out of 10, I want to build a system that gets me in front of as many agents as possible in as short of a period of time possible that helps me effectively filter down to the 1 or 2 that are going to become great, committed, and highly loyal partners who are going to recognize, understand, and appreciate the value of me implementing these 4 key systems that are going to enable that agent to do radically more business over the next 12 months, like the optimizing lead flow conversation and the who questions type dialogue that I introduced you to that's essentially designed to replace every deal we've got with 1 or 2 more by being a strategic asset to that business development partner. So what are the step-by-step action plans? What do we need to drill down on? You know, if the biggest obstacle is finding agents who are approachable, approaching agents with the effective strategy to create enough curiosity and engagement that they'll take an appointment, getting through an effective one-on-one appointment with agents to create the most trust, loyalty, and possible commitment to get to the next appointment. And again, sometimes it's those subtle tweaks and adjustments that 212th degree, the difference between hot water and steam or boiling water is 1 degree Fahrenheit. The 212th degree, it's that one final activity result that makes all the difference in the world. And so as we go through this, here's what I want you to do. What are the strategies that are going to directly overcome? And you may notice in the action guides that on purpose, the what's in your way piece is directly to the left of the what are your solutions or what are the winning solutions, because in many cases there's a direct correlation between that specific obstacle. Agents don't recognize, appreciate, or value beyond a transactional level. What's our solution? Get better at communicating value beyond a transactional. How can we become the running buddy and business development partner or asset that's going to enable them to do substantially more business by thinking about kind of like those 4 drill down optimizing lead flow conversations with agents. So what's the best solution that we want to implement first, and what are the follow-up solutions that need to be there? For example, if you need to spend 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 additional hours a week, 1 extra hour a day or a half day a week, maybe that's one of your bigger obstacles, is not enough time in the day, already at what feels like maximum capacity. Well, how do you compress the amount of time you're spending on condition chasing, so you're spending an hour a day less chasing conditions on active loans, so that you free up an extra hour a day to focus on partner development? What you'll find is if your primary goal and solution is, study and learn the Power Partner Development System so that I can streamline the process of attracting and securing strategic partnerships with realtors, that's my number one solution or goal. Then what are the subsequent goals that are going to go along with that? Well, it's streamlining operational efficiency on a loan-by-loan basis, reducing the number of man-hours per deal, beginning to start looking at leveraging my team that I have already better, so I'm creating higher efficiency, as well as beginning to think about what does it take to add additional team members at the appropriate place and time, and how do I prepare for that well in advance, so that when I'm beginning to reach a threshold of capacity, I'm able to overcome it. As we go through, the important element of the next step of the plan is, now that we've got a couple of key solutions that you've identified, and this is where I want you to take just a couple of seconds and map out what are the key solutions to your biggest obstacles that are in the way of you reaching to your next level. Well, the next step in the process is drilling one layer deeper. As we begin to outline the step-by-step action plan, that's where we begin to peel back the layers. And I kind of use the analogy of an artichoke here. I mean, when I was a kid, this was my favorite food. When I would get good grades and my mom would want to cook me a special meal, I always asked for artichokes, right? She'd steam them up. She'd put some warm lemon butter, and the problem with the artichoke is that you dip the outside of it, and of course on the outside, you peel off a leaf. A little bit of this, the meaty part down here comes off with it. You scrape it off with your teeth after you dip it in lemon butter. It tastes really good, but the deeper you go, the thinner the meat, and you get down to this thin papery stuff, and even worse, this hairy, what's called the choke, which is, if you don't scrape it off just right, it ruins the best part of the artichoke, which is the actual heart, which is where the most tender meat of the actual plant is when you eat it. So sometimes you have to go through that adversity of going layers deeper to get to what is really at the core of a potential opportunity, and being willing to struggle through practice and refine so that we get to the level of execution that we want to see. So every individual goal or project that we establish is going to have, within the context of it, a repeat of this power growth cycle: purpose, obstacles, winning solution, engagement, and reinforcement. So when you go to project-specific goals, this micro-planning worksheet, the 3 S's of success, begin with that big picture goal. So again, let's go back to that partner development goal example. If my goal is in the next 12 months to establish 5 key business partners worth at least 1 good lead a week, what is a realistic target date for completion? Well, let's say my target date is 6 months out. 1 new business partner a month for the next 5 to 6 months, and maybe there's a 30-day ramp-up period for me. So again, I'm going to go deeper into those specific challenges for that one particular project or goal, and we're drilling a layer deeper into this strategic planning process, kind of like peeling back the layers of the artichoke. So the challenges: building the list of target agents, how to meet them, how to attract them and get appointments, how to overcome challenges or obstacles in getting those appointments, how to create consistent follow-through as I'm beginning to get some traction. How do I get them to increase the level of loyalty, not just getting a handful of leads, 1 or 2 leads every 6 to 8 weeks. How do I get them to the level of consistency where I'm getting all of their introductions, where they're going out of their way to introduce me over the other loan officers in the market, even to buyers that are pre-approved with somebody else, because they recognize, understand, and appreciate that it costs them money to not introduce me to every buyer every time. Okay, so what are the solutions to that? Value proposition to agents being one of the obstacles. How do we create a transformational value for that agent? The solution is practicing a business development partner approach strategy. Mr. Agent, at the end of the day, I don't even want to talk to you about your business, your referrals right now. I mean, I'm sure you're getting 100 calls a week from other loan officers promising you world-class service. The practical reality is, I mean, if I can't communicate accurate and timely pre-approvals up front, communicate well throughout the transaction, and close on time, I nor anybody else deserve your business as an originator. That's just the minimum basic standard. But what I really want to talk to you about today, Mr. Agent, is how I can be a strategic asset and resource to you that's going to help you substantially increase your business flow and volume over time, helping you go from, double, triple, quadruple your business over the next 12 to 24 months, where we can eventually over time develop the kind of commitment, loyalty, and synergy that's going to allow us to make a much bigger difference in the community than either of us could hope to achieve separately or independently. And that's really where I'd like to take our conversation first. So tell you what, why don't you let me take you out to lunch next week? I'm open either Tuesday or Wednesday. What's better for you, right? Now, the implementation or the solution to overcome the challenge of weak value proposition to agents is go back to, that particular demonstration, which will be about, about a minute, about 70 minutes, 1 hour and 12 minutes into the webinar here as we get started, or somewhere around there is where I gave the demonstration of it. And when you see me pull up this slide, that's a good place to look for that script. So maybe the action item is schedule 30 minutes to review the agent approach conversation outline Erik demonstrated during the February 24th webinar, outlining the bullet points of that conversation strategy and then drilling down. And this is kind of where, it might be a little redundant in what we're trying to do to drill down. You might end up repeating some of what you did in the bigger picture action item stuff, but as you drill down layers deeper, the next step in this part of the conversation is, okay, what are those step-by-step action plans? It's download the tools and resources, practice the strategy, build the targeting list, schedule time to make the phone calls, follow up on the phone calls with confirmation appointments, practice the interview outline strategy to how to get the best results in the shortest period of time with agents. And each one of those specific action items work backwards. If I want to have that system up and running and be ready to begin executing that system on a highly efficient basis in the next 30 days. So what are the realistic completion dates for those action items, right? Map it out in a logical sequence. This is not rocket science. It's just taking the step back and looking at it from, instead of being so busy being busy, how do I be more productive and results-oriented? And then, of course, the next step is just thinking about, okay, who am I going to share this action plan with from these 2 previous pages, which you might, by the way, have noticed in your action guide that this is actually, it's essentially one action guide that's split over 2 pages. It's a 9-step process that allows you to filter down as you go through the action items on these 2 pages. And you can use this, by the way, part of the reason I give you the action guides, print it, use it, make the most of it. Every time you have a new goal in your business, you can use these 2 pages, this 3 S's of solution planning, as an ongoing strategy to help you strategize how you want to accomplish those goals more efficiently anytime you want to change, grow, or evolve what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. The reason being is any project, idea, or concept was trying to transform you. I mean, think about it from this perspective. I mean, our ideas is knowledge power. Well, the practical reality of it is knowledge is only powerful if it's acted on. So what we've overcome or uncovered in the years of coaching and development and training that we've been doing is that it takes something more in many cases to power through to the next level. And what we're really talking about is for any idea to really become a part of who we are, it has to go through 5 very distinct phases of transformation. The first is the awareness. Oh, that's a cool idea. I like that script. I want to be using it. But maybe someday later, right? The next layer is the understanding. Okay, the mechanics of, like, for example, when I went through the who questions. Why did I go a little more granular when I went into the renter, family works hard, pays their bills on time, and has been renting the same place for the last 2 years? Well, one, because I'm looking for a family that's a better candidate for home ownership, because I'm looking for somebody who's more stable. I'm not looking for the fly-by-night renter who's had 8 jobs in the last 6 months and 3 different addresses because he's bouncing from apartment to apartment because he's not settled in life. Well, when you reach that level, that's that level of understanding. It's that, aha, now I get it. Now I understand why he's going to that level. But I don't care how well we understand a concept or idea, before we take action on it, it has no value to us. Only the ideas we implement have an opportunity to benefit us, right? So when we take action, though, the first time we pick up an instrument, for example, we're not going to be perfect at playing it. I mean, you don't pick up a cello today and expect to play a Mozart concerto tomorrow. It takes refinement. It takes practice. It takes evaluation of what am I doing and how could I do it better next time, and a recurring cycle and reinforcement of value, which is where we get into the practice phase of what we do to grow and evolve how we operate on a daily basis. And again, that also requires time that we go to the practice room. We take time out of the day-to-day busyness of our business and focus on how we could do it better so that we can create more results with less time committed. But eventually, when we've done it enough times, we've practiced it enough, and we've created enough external reminders, it becomes second nature. It becomes a habit. I mean, I don't have to think about what I'm going to say to an agent when I pick up the phone to call a new prospective business partner anymore, because I've done it so many hundreds of times. It's my first and most natural reaction to respond. But even now, I'm still focusing on refining and evolving what we do day by day, week by week, month by month. And that's what we want to try and help you create. So the final step in the power growth process is the refining the execution. And it's not so much about building your success plan for the next 12 months. It's about how to make sure that success plan gets implemented and accelerated as you're going through the phases of implementation over the next 12 months. Which, by the way, there's a quick question that got posted in here about, will the PowerPoint be available? Yes, and Kenny, if you didn't get it, you can download the outline of this material, the 5-phase implementation process, and the 3 S's solution worksheet is actually in the action guide. If you go to the link that I just posted in the chat again, you can download that action guide and be able to use it. It's in PDF format. So, by the way, I would ask one favor of you guys out of respect to our intellectual property. Please don't share it widely or broadcast it to your entire company. This is proprietary content being shared with those of you who are the 1%ers who are willing to invest your time, energy into crafting and refining your skill sets. And in many cases, it won't be of value to somebody who isn't willing to take their level of performance to the next level. So please be respectful of that if you would. I'm giving it to you as a thank you for investing your time in participating in today's program. But the long story short of where we're going with this final step is, what do you do over the next 12 months to create the highest probability over the next 12 months? Okay, Lori, somebody said watching on an iPad, the chat box in the GoToWebinar platform is not working properly. Yes, we can. We'll email out the link to these resources when we send out the follow-up email a little later. And after the webinar, I can go ahead and email all that out to any of you who've actually attended today with these resource links from computer. We'll get that out to you. Anyway, all right, so what is the last step? Well, the last thing I wanted to spend a few minutes with you all on, just to make sure that you're getting ideas and strategies implemented, is what we've found to be the ultimate keys to successful execution. And it's really found in these 3 primary areas where we find you get the best results. One is you've got to take one step forward every day. You've got to be proactive and progress-oriented. Secondly is you've got to create results and track and monitor results so that you know whether you are or are not on pace as you move forward. One of the ways we do this is through the final page in the action guide that just before there's a little bit of advertisement at the back of the book of the action guide that you could actually take and download. But it's the setting goals by solution process, daily briefing worksheet. Well, there's 2 key elements to this that have to do with the first two in these keys of proaction and progress focus. So the first step is the briefing. I mean, begin every day with a goal in mind. What is the most important goal you're working on in your business growth? What steps, if completed today, would give you the most significant progress towards the goal? So if every morning you started out taking 5 to 10 minutes to take a step back and look at what do I really want to accomplish today? Where am I wanting to go in my business? And what do I want to make sure I do today that's going to lead me 1 or 2 steps forward today so that I'm making, over the course of the week, 5 to 10 progress steps, and over the course of the month, 20 to 25 progress steps, and over the course of the year, 120 progress steps towards a couple of my primary goals. So it doesn't take a lot of effort over a long period of time. It takes a little effort consistently to create radical change and growth. Yes, Kenny, the action sheets that are posted that I'm showing you here, you can download. They're in the action guide that I introduced everybody to at the beginning of the program. I'll circle back to that in just a second, if you don't mind. But the link that I just posted in the chat box will take you directly to an online file folder that will allow you to download the action guide, which has all these action sheets in it. It starts down around page 17 in the action guide. Okay. All right. The second key element of what we want to do is we want to be progress-oriented when we think about what we want to do and how we want to do it and how we want to be more productive in the growth of our business. So when we focus on progress, one of the things we've got to begin to realize is that sometimes we have a tendency, and the highest achievers in life, the most goal-oriented people, sometimes have a tendency to fall into what we call a gap mentality. In other words, we get so focused on the prize or the goal, and we start to focus on how many steps it's going to take to get from here to there. Like if I'm doing 5 loans a month and I want to get to 10 or 12 loans a month, it can seem overwhelming or impossible because it just seems like it's so far out there. And every time I try and take a step toward it, it feels like I'm 2 steps back kind of thing. But part of the reason for that is because we're focusing on the distance to the goal. And if it seems overwhelming, it feels very deflating and it can be very de-energizing. Versus if we focused on the progress I made today versus yesterday, this week versus last week, this month versus last month, then I'll be inspired, I'll be encouraged, I can feel good about what I want to do and how I want to do it better, which allows me to make progress not only physically but also emotionally. So that as I'm looking at what I want to accomplish for the future, every day at the end of the day, taking 5 to 10 minutes to do a daily debrief of what went well today, what are the things that I did well that I want to make sure get reinforced and repeated, but then also looking at from a positive solutions-oriented mindset what I want tomorrow to look like and where I had opportunity for improvement with a forward-leaning solutions-oriented mindset. Then I set myself up to ask the next question, which is, what's the next step? So as we start looking at this, I mean, if there's anything I've taught any of our coaching clients over the 10-plus years that we've been running this coaching company and our team of coaches and the thousands of clients we put through this program, if you want to radically accelerate your growth, learn this 1 3-step debrief. Anytime you do anything, anytime you jump into a new selling situation, after you finish that, take 3 to 5 minutes to do a very quick, very simple debrief of how that experience went. 2 things you want to make sure you do. You want to reinforce what went well so it gets repeated. You want to identify opportunities for improvement, and you want to create a plan of action for where you go from here. You do those 3 things, you will radically accelerate the growth of what you want to accomplish. And that's kind of where that last piece comes into play, which is performance tracking. Another element of this is to think about not only, though, from just the perspective of the what we do and how we do it and being consistent targeting growth, we also want to focus on the income and volume goals. Am I or am I not on pace? Well, how do I know if I'm not measuring it? It comes back to an old concept we learned a while back called the Hawthorne effect, which talks about what gets measured and gets done. Often because we're focused on tracking results, the likelihood of achieving those results is substantially higher. So one of the things I encourage all of you to do is immediately start doing a lead tracking exercise. Pull out a simple log sheet. You can even create this in an Excel spreadsheet of your own. What was the name of the lead? Where did it come from? What were the results of it? And gather and assume that information. If your weekly lead goal is 3 leads a week and it's Thursday and you're behind on your lead focus, you can adjust your activity Thursday and Friday to pick up the slack and make a couple of extra prospecting calls. The habit of being consistent in proactively generating business is going to be one of the biggest differences that's going to help you radically accelerate your growth. The last step in this process is what we call the bonus or the make a promise concept. And this is what we do every single day. Now, you can certainly do this without the benefit of a full-time professional coach, but I will tell you that in often cases, this is the #1 difference to whether people make it or not. It's, if you think about what did all the top athletes in professional world have, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans of the world, well, they all had somebody to hold them accountable. Somebody who trusted and they respected, somebody who was as committed to their own success, if not more so than they were, that would challenge them to increase their performance to a higher standard and a higher level. And what it comes down to is, like, for example, in 1998, Brigham Young University did a research study on what it took to create action out of ideas. And you guys can read the text on the screen here. But basically, they found out there were 4 things. If you did these 4 things, you had a 95% chance of implementing the ideas and getting them in action. And the reason for that is because of this external layer of accountability. So the 4 things are: 1, you have a specific goal; 2, you have a step-by-step action plan for completing that goal; 3, you have milestone deadlines or target completion dates for each step in the process; and 4, you have somebody who's going to check in with you regularly and hold you accountable to following through on those commitments. If you do those 4 things, you have a 95% or better chance of accomplishing your goals. So many of you have been asking questions and posting in the chat, what is maximum acceleration? What do we really do? So if you'll permit me for just a minute, hopefully you've received massive value from today's program, and you're going to use these ideas and concepts, go out and find accountability partners who you can trust, who you respect, who you know have the knowledge and information you don't have that's going to help you transform your business, and being the catalyst that introduces these kinds of ideas and concepts to the people around you who you have an opportunity to benefit and be an accountability partner to. But that's exactly what we're built to do here at Maximum Acceleration. What makes us unique, and why do we do what we do and how we do it? Well, because we're very passionate about making that transformation happen in the businesses and in the lives of the people we have the opportunity to serve. There's a couple of key things that we offer. We offer 3 different levels of service: home study, group study, coaching programs, and one-on-one personal programs that are available. We don't believe in any long-term contracts. We don't tie people to 12 or 24-month commitments that we're going to send you the collections if you don't pay on time or whatever. We give you access to an extremely extensive library of content, tools, materials, and resources that you only get access to in a Maximum Acceleration participant or subscriber. If you looked at the total value of these tools that you get access to over a 6-month program, you're looking at over $12,000 in value in content. And what, if you are serious about taking your business to the next level in a one-on-one coaching environment, typically we used to retail at $64.95 based on the structure of the economy and what's been happening in the market. We've made some strategic adjustments to streamline what we do. We've been able to reduce the cost a bit, and you can get started for as little as $14.95 for the first month and then $900 a month thereafter on a monthly plan. There's additional discounts available if you're interested. And if you think about it, I mean, what's the ROI on that coaching investment? I mean, at the end of the day, you produce 1 additional loan a month for most originators. You're generating an extra $2,500 to $3,000 in commission, which is about a 250% return on investment from that coaching investment. Just so you know, by the way, that's our number 1 goal with any one-on-one coaching client, is to get you to where you're getting that 1 or 2 additional loans a month and you're achieving that 250 to 300% return on investment within 60 to 90 days. We hit that target historically a little better than 80% of the time. And so as a result of that, we want to help you take your business to the next level. Of course, if that's a little out of reach for you, if budget-wise you just don't have the resources for that right now, there are a couple of other programs that you have access to that you could begin to take advantage of, one of which is an introduction to the Power Partner Development System, which is a turnkey program taught through one of our home study courses called our Double Your Income training. It's a 6-part video coaching program. It would take you about 12 to 15 hours to complete it if you followed the exercises the way they're laid out in the course materials, because not only does the video introduce a concept, it actually gives you implementation exercises that we expect you to, pause the tape, take a few seconds, practice the strategy so you can begin to start implementing it and then pick it up and go to the next level. But it's a true turnkey system called the Power Partner Development System for how to attract, approach, engage, and get commitment from business development partners like realtors, financial planners, CPAs, insurance agents, et cetera, et cetera. That program, again, regularly retails for $6.95. It's available on the website often for $2.97. But today, if you want to go ahead and take advantage of that, you can use the discount DBLMAX or Double Max and get it for an additional $50 off, which will get it to you for $247. If you want to go ahead and do that, by the way, you can jump to our mxlcoach.com website. You can go to the Shop tab and click there. That opens up the shopping cart. Select the DVD digital box sets. You type in the Double Your Income Web Shop program, select it, and again, the discount code for the Double Your Income Web Shop is DBLMAX in all capital letters. I'll type that into the chat section here. For the discount code to save $50 on the Double Your Income with Power Partners home study course material. There is another home study course material which I'll introduce you to, which is the Performance Power Up event as well, which was actually a 2-day online sales and marketing conference, 19 speakers over 15 hours of programming, including a more expanded version of today's program, the Ideas to Action web shop, that walks you through in a little more granular detail some of the ways in which we can accelerate that coaching growth. Again, that entire video series, again, over almost 20 hours worth of training and development content material across a wide variety of topics from a whole host of some of the industry's top thought leaders and guest speakers. Typically it retails for $4.97 full ticket price for the live event. If you want it on video, you again just go to our shopping cart website, mxlcoach.com/shop. Click on the link to take you into the shopping cart. Again, select the the Performance Power Up video program. It'll add it to the shopping cart, and when you're on the checkout screen, type in the discount code ONDEMAND, ONDEMAND. Again, that'll take $200 off the price, and you'll be able to get access to that Performance Power Up video training series for just $297. Again, what's your ROI like? I mean, you do one additional loan over the next 6 months, and your ROI is well over 1,000% return on investment just by taking those concepts, ideas, practicing them, and implementing those strategically over time. For lack of anything better, if you are interested in finding out more about the group or one-on-one coaching program, if you're serious about taking your business to the next level, and you are the 1%, you really do want to take things to a completely different level. One of the things that we do offer, and we don't have a ton of these available every single week, but because keep in mind it's based on the bandwidth of our coaching schedules, we do offer what we call a strategy session, which is a no cost, no obligation, one-on-one session with one of our coaches. We'll let you experience coaching, get some help, support, and guidance on one particular issue or challenge you're struggling with, and through the course of that discussion, talk a little bit about what, if anything, it looks like for you to proceed with when it comes to coaching and whether that would be worth it timely or not, if, how, and when to proceed if you're interested. Of course, there's no cost or obligation for the session. It's just something we feel is the best way to help people really truly understand the value of coaching is by experiencing it. So with that being said, the last thing that I wanted to do just before we jump off the call today that I want to make sure all of you have the opportunity to participate in is think about this. You've invested an hour and a half of your time today to go through this event, this web shop program. Hopefully you've gained some ideas and strategies for how to implement more effectively and more consistently. It would be very unwise not to take advantage of that investment. Make sure you do something with it to make sure it gets implemented. Like we said, ideas without action are useless. Only when knowledge is applied does it become truly powerful. So take just 30 seconds more before you pick up that next phone call, before you jump on that next email, and create an action plan for what you want to do with the ideas, strategies, and resources you've been introduced to today. Ask yourself this first question: what was the one most valuable thing you heard in today's program? Jot it down. Secondly, what action do you need to take to make that idea a part of your daily business from this point forward? 3, by when will you have that action completed? Create external accountability. Set a target date for completion. Not a someday maybe, by Friday of next week. Okay? 4th, who is going to be your accountability partner? I mean, think about it from this perspective. Let's say I wanted to lose some weight for a New Year's resolution, and I decide I'm going to do a jogging program. So, okay, so maybe I don't go out January 1st. I was up till midnight, stayed up too late with the kids. You know how that goes. Anyway, but January 2nd I go out. Maybe I push it too far, and I overdo my physical ability. January 3rd I go out, and I don't go quite as far because I'm just worn out from the first day. January 4th I barely make it around the block. January 5th it's cold, it's wet, it's nasty outside, and I really don't want to go jogging because every muscle in my body aches. So I hit the snooze button, roll over, and go back to sleep. But how different would it be if I knew my neighbor was going to be on my doorstep at 5:30 to go jogging together? So it's January 5th, and it's still cold, wet, and nasty outside, and I still really don't want to go because I ache, but I know my buddy's on my doorstep. It's so much harder to break the promises we make to somebody else versus the promises we make to ourselves. So who is going to be your accountability resource in helping you follow through and make sure that you implement and execute on the ideas, strategies, and concepts that you want to make sure get implemented that have a huge chance of radically increasing your business development and growth? All right, with that, I'm going to stay on the line for just a few more minutes, and we'll kind of open up the line for chat and Q&A. If there's anything I can address for you guys directly, please feel free to go ahead and chat in now on that. For those of you who were not available or were not on board at the very beginning of today's program, the link that I'll be pasting here in your chat log. Again, if you're having trouble finding where the chat log is, if you go to the GoToWebinar control panel that's on the right-hand side of your computer screen, and you go ahead and select, there's a little plus sign by the word chat. That will open up a chat box where you can see the post that I'm putting in the chat log right now. And in that chat log is a link that will take you to a file folder that looks a lot like the screenshot I've just put up here for you. The action guide PDF is the file that you want to download. Again, there's a little drop-down arrow you can mouse over that opens up this file menu where you can hit the download button and save it to your hard drive so you can access it and use it. Of course, the income volume goals exercise spreadsheet is here as well. The performance tracker tool that I introduced at the very end of the web shop, I'll make sure I get that posted here shortly. And then we can go from there. Anyway, any additional questions, any thoughts, ideas, suggestions that you'd like my help or support with, feel free to go ahead and post them in the Q&A. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to take off recording for the time being, and we can go ahead and proceed with that if you want at this point. That way you don't have to worry about being on recording. I've gone ahead and suspended the recording for the time being. I'm going to be hanging around for just a few more minutes, kind of taking care of some stuff on the backside that I need to clean up just before I shut down the webinar platform here. But anything that I can help or support you guys with, any questions related to the topic of today's program, or any suggestions for future program, feel free to go ahead and post them in the Q&A now. Again, if you would like more information about the one-on-one coaching program and how it all works, go ahead and post that in the Q&A now. If you would like to take advantage of one of these strategy sessions, one of the best ways to let us know that you're interested, and by the way, probably one of the most efficient ways of actually getting that appointment scheduled with one of our coaches, is to go ahead and post in the Q&A that you would like to take advantage of one of these strategy sessions. Just give us the best phone number and email address for our team to be able to reach out to you and coordinate scheduling. for that one-on-one appointment. If you would like to get a no-cost, no-obligation strategy session, get some help, support, and guidance on one of your bigger challenges or obstacles to growth, step-by-step action plan, and a little bit of an overview about what more in-depth the coaching program includes and how it could benefit you in helping you accelerate your growth. So again, go ahead and post that in the Q&A, the best phone number and email address for our scheduling team to get a hold of you and get an appointment booked for one of you for one of our coaching with one of our coaches for you. All right, just reading through some of the Q&A chat here. Let's see, had an email. Awesome. Thanks again, Diane. Okay, let's see. I love the comments, Kenny. Thank you for the positive feedback. You know, take something, do something with them. That's what we're here for. And of course, if there's anything that we can do to help you, and you're interested in participating at a higher level and getting more direct support from any of our programs, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know, and we'll be happy to work with you. We'd love to see the kind of results that our clients are capable of getting by working with any of our programs, the one-on-one group program or the home study materials. So again, thanks for joining us today. All right, other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? Go ahead and I hate to sound like a broken record here, but you know, or like the preacher at a wedding. You know, speak now or forever hold your peace. But I need to be wrapping this up and getting on to my next session here in the not too distant future. So if there are any additional questions or comments, feel free to go ahead and get them posted in the webinar platform now, and we will go from there. And like I said, I do have to take care of a couple of things on the backside here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the webcam. By the way, let me know if you guys, by the way, do you like the webcam? Do you prefer me have the webcam on when we're doing these webinars, or do you prefer we just have the screen? I know sometimes it can be a little distorting because you see me look over to the side and look down at my keypad or my notes over on the other side of my desk, but I don't know. I kind of like having the visual engagement. Let me know. What do you like? You know, we're testing out different ideas, and we're experimenting with different strategies for to how to even get more value. Anyway, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to know more about what you would like to see in future topics. We would like to know more about what you would like to have us focus on as we continue to serve the mission. All right, love the comment. By the way, thank you. It's a little hard sometimes because if I have to like blow my nose, it's always a little awkward to figure out what to do with the